Great.
Okay, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about topic clusters for SEO and all of the aspects to increase effectiveness of SEO and content marketing. I'm here today with my friend Steve Widman from Widman Consulting Group. I'm Emilia Chagas, co-founder and CEO of Content Tools. Here at Content Tools, we provide content marketing solutions for marketing teams that want to be more productive and intelligent. Steve here is an SEO expert, search engine marketing consultant, speaker, author, trainer, coach, and strategist. He helps so many businesses, from small to medium businesses, in his agency to achieve more online organically, which is the dream. And Steve is here today to talk to us about how to achieve more online, organizing our website with topic clusters. So Steve, please come on up and tell me all about it. Hello.
Great introduction. Thanks, Amelia. So yeah, as you'd mentioned, I've been in the search industry pretty close to 2 decades now, most notably working for companies such as Disney, and did some work with Expedia Corporate, and I've had that tour in the corporate world before we decided, hey, let's see what we can do on our own as a team. And over the last decade, we've been testing and experimenting and running focus groups and playing with new technologies like voice search and IoT and smart home, and really trying to see where our clients can get the most exposure within search results through image optimization and content and local. And throughout that process, we've developed a framework that seems to work really well for a lot of our clients. And as part of that framework, it's really looking at content strategy. And we're going to get into, of course, content clusters is the topic today. But we're gonna broaden it out a little bit too, and talk a little bit about the big picture of content strategy, because it can be really confusing and overwhelming, and feel like a really daunting task for any digital marketer trying to figure out what their game plan is. And I think, and having worked in search as long as we have, we've kind of got the big picture down. And I think the analogy we were using when we were just kind of having a casual conversation yesterday was, the way you eat an elephant, one bite at a time, right? That's the joke. And the challenge a lot of businesses have is they don't know, what the elephant is. They haven't created a blueprint of the whole process, but what they're doing is just sort of exploring and testing and throwing things out there and hoping they stick. Hey, I found a topic generator for our blog, or hey, I got a couple ideas from a competitor website, but they haven't mapped it all out. They haven't listed every page that they could have on their website and how it should be organized and why it should be organized. So today we're going to look at the content clusters, but starting at the big picture and looking at site taxonomy and information architecture a little bit. And then we'll go into some examples of how we can use all these great keywords, where we find the best search terms for our website, how to organize them, and how it can benefit our broader search terms that we like to rank for. So if everyone's good, we'll go ahead and start flipping through the slides here. So our goals, number one, is to really understand what taxonomy means in the world of SEO and give you some examples. Also to figure out where we can get some of the historical data so that when our boss or our client says, well, why did you choose these keywords? Our first answer isn't, well, I was looking at competitors. Our first answer is, well, I looked at what's already working for us. I looked at the data. So now you have a data-driven approach, and then we expand or elaborate on that through looking at competitor insights. We also want to be able to reverse engineer a competitor's keyword targets, which isn't actually difficult at all to do. I think you'll find the process really easy. Where to find new topics and organize them, topics that people are searching for, not just fun ideas. We have some fun ideas as well, but when we think about search, the idea, of course, is to drive as much organic traffic as we can. And then building that IA and coming up with what our sitemap looks like. So here's an example of how you take a sort of a flat taxonomy, where it's your site and some words in file names off the root of your site. And we organize it into something that's a little bit more intuitive. So taxonomy is defined by, I think I might have grabbed this from Wikipedia or some Webster website where I tried to get more of the SEO definition of it. And that's, of course, creating a content classification system more than anything else. And using that to really improve our navigation experience, which can boost our search engine rankings. And in every example where we've done that, where a client says, hey, I'd like to rank for the most competitive keyword in the law industry, like truck accident lawyer, we can say, gee, if we think about supportive content, we think about ways that we can expand upon that search term, maybe we can rank for the most competitive word in the personal injury industry. And we can, and we did. And this walkthrough gives you, a framework that we use that worked really well for us. So on the right-hand side, you can see how we took that services and we used real words that search engines can read and interpret. So SEO SVCS on the left is now services, right? And the page is, of course, inbound marketing services might be the right search term for that page. And then underneath that, we have search engine optimization, or SEO services would be the keyword for that page, and then email marketing services. But instead of concatenating our letters and using abbreviations and making it a little bit less understandable, we use real words and we separate them with hyphens. You could also use underscores, as what we used to use to really try to fold two words into a phrase. But in today's way that the crawlers are reading those URLs, you can use a hyphen and it'll work just fine. So here's an example of, again, taking a flat taxonomy and building it into something that is a little bit more SEO friendly. And here's an example of a piece of a website where we created a sitemap. I think we took 20 competitors in the spiral staircase industry, and we pulled all of the keywords that they are receiving traffic from, and then started to filter and sort and remove words that were irrelevant and organize them into these things called keyword clusters that we're going to deep dive into in a minute, to help us to create content. Now, this original website didn't have a lot of content. In fact, if we look at the overall site here, it was home, products, about us. All their products were on one page. They only had 10 prefabricated products. So, their excuse was, well, we only have 10 products. We don't need more content. Well, wait a minute. Your 10 products, some of them are circular and spiral. One of them is straight or standard, right? We took all of those different derivatives and tried to create content that upon Google and Bing's first crawl of the page, they can quickly and easily understand the words that page might be relevant for and test that URL in the search results to see how users respond to it. So we came up with all these great ideas, again, by garnering the insights of what search terms are driving traffic for the competition. And then continuing through that list, we looked at user intent. So as we start to think about the reason why people were looking for the stairs, we found that some of them were looking for outdoor and exterior, and others were looking for attic stairs and deck stairs and porch stairs. They have all sorts of reasons why they needed a staircase. And the brand had thousands of pictures from installations that they had done in all of these different scenarios. I'm like, wow, these are all great content ideas to drive users whose intent is to find a staircase for their balcony, basement, deck, etc. And then it's the supportive content. How do we build supportive content underneath this silo, to help move us up for the search term that we're trying to rank for? And in this case, the content could be the how, where, why, when, who, ideas, tips, all of those types of answers to questions that users have, creates amazing supportive content and attracts links. I'm going to show you in a few minutes how we apply this to a web page to not only appear in organic results, but also to start appearing in some of those voice queries on Google Assistant and Amazon Echo and Siri. Let's keep going. So end game, what's the elephant? What's the blueprint? How do I take this 4 or 5 page website and turn it into something that attracts thousands of visitors a month? So if you've got a good content plan, you'll have mapped out all of the different ways that users are searching for what you have, the how, why, where, etc., and the uses and the materials and all the different ways that people are searching. And you're going to build a site taxonomy similar to the sitemap that you see on my screen. And I'll make sure after the webinar that everybody gets a copy of this, and you'll be able to explore this in a little bit more detail. But this all evolved from an aggregate of search term data that we found from from using keyword tools that helped us to to really shape what's now a sitemap for a website. So where do we find these keywords? Right, as we start to put our keyword clusters together and figure out what we want to appear for, as I mentioned, starting with your own data is going to be the first place to start. In this example, you can see, unfortunately in Google Analytics, most of our keywords are hidden behind a not provided. Fortunately, there's still some historical data in there prior to when Google started moving all of the keywords under that not provided, claiming user privacy is the reason they don't want to share it. But you can still see a lot of that information. So starting with analytics is the best place, I think, to really understand where search engines have shown you for what keywords. Filtering out the brand name, of course. You don't want to have your brand name in here because you're already going to rank for your brand name. If you don't, then you've got bigger problems than getting traffic for non-branded search terms. The other place that you can look in analytics, you can also go right into your ad platforms like Bing Ads and Google Ads, are your CPC queries, a cost per click query data, not your keywords, because a keyword is really a clue in paid search. It's the actual query report that you want to pull that shows what the user actually searched for. Pull a long enough time of data, and you've got some really good insights on what people are looking for. You can also go into Google Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools, and you can pull insights here that show what people have searched where Google's displayed your website. So here's one example. And again, you're pulling all of this data into different tabs within your workbook, or you're using a tool like Content Tools to kind of streamline the process for you. So once we pull all the data that we have about our own website, our own search console, our own paid search queries, our own keyword data and organic, now we want to look at the competition. So here's where we can jump out and start to really sort of spy on the competition a bit and see where they're getting their organic traffic from. One of the tools that I like to use is really simple. It's Excel. I'll pull up in Excel. I don't believe you can do this in Google Sheets just yet. There might be a script or something you can run, but you basically just put the competitor's XML sitemap right into your data tab in Excel. And then you can easily see, like here's Cracker Barrel, for example. You can easily see what their keyword targets are by the words that they use in the URLs. For Cracker Barrel, it's pretty obvious that they're targeting breakfast restaurant, right? Well, does your client have breakfast as a category? Is it a main category? We're working with a company that builds custom homes right now. And one of the things that we found in doing this just this past week was that they don't have anything in their taxonomy to address the cities that people are searching for homes in, such as new homes in Anaheim or custom homes in Anaheim. They don't have a page for that. They just drop right into their community name, and they completely leave out the ability to drive traffic from search terms like homes in Anaheim or new homes in Anaheim. So the next thing you could do is, again, use a keyword tool to pull in information about what search terms are driving traffic to the competition. In this case, we could see lunch near me and restaurant near me. Some great ideas for, again, kind of building ideas off of. And then what we could do is, once you've aggregated all of that information, create a pivot table in Excel. Just go to Insert and click Pivot Table and build a column for frequency. So in this case, when we looked at, I think it was close to 30 competitors or some high number like that, we found that 19 of those competitors are receiving traffic from breakfast near me. And from that, we could see what our current average map rank was, and what our organic rank was, and see that there's an opportunity here. We're in the green, we're in the top 3, that's great, but we're not at the top spot just yet. Lunch near me had 11 competitors receiving traffic from that search term, and our current average rank was 32, and our organic rank was 53. So this is a huge opportunity for a brand to say, hey, do we even have a lunch page? No, we just have a little section about it on the homepage. Well, great, there's a huge opportunity for us to create a lunch dedicated landing page, or to take our local landing pages if we're a multi-location business, and really build off of that local page with lunch specials. And you can put lunch specials near you at name of your restaurant, and then build that content out. And depending on how many locations you have, try to get it as custom as you can, so that you appear for those lunch queries in all the areas that you have locations. So IA, this is where all the real magic happens in SEO. You can piecemeal and guess and throw things out there and create content all day. But if you create the map first, then you've basically created a checklist for yourself for the next several years. Some of the attorneys we work with still have over 300 pages of content that hasn't even been written yet, lined up and ready to go, and organized by which ones have the highest search volume within the project management system. So in that example that we looked at earlier, here's that improved sitemap. And what are the keywords that we're targeting in there? The first one being around inbound marketing services, so that we don't cannibalize the other search terms that are important to us. We want one URL to appear in the search results, so that we're not competing against ourselves, and so that we can put all of our energy toward one URL. So we don't need 6 different search engine optimization services pages. That's one misconception. And it's unfortunate, because 10 years ago, that technique would have worked. I could have created plurals and singulars and derivatives, and created a page for every single way that somebody would search. And I would appear for all those queries because it was based on the keyword. Well, ever since the Hummingbird update, Google's really displaying pages based on user intent, and a little bit less on the keywords. So we can combine our semantics and our derivatives and our synonyms into one really good, helpful page, and then use links, internal links and inbound links, to really help make the page relevant for those other different terms that we want the page to rank for. So again, one example of how to improve that sitemap. Some free tools that you can use to start putting ideas together once you've looked at competitors, once you've looked at your own data. If you're still kind of coming up short for ideas, here's some great ways that you can just start putting some thought into this. The people also ask area of the search results, great. As soon as you start clicking on things in this area down here, as soon as you start clicking on them, Google will expand it and give you more ideas, almost like an endless list of ideas. Related searches show up at the bottom of the search result page. You can use those related searches as well. Neither of them have any sort of metrics behind them. You can export them and put them into the Google Keyword Planner and get some ideas, but even then, Google's given you keywords and not search terms, so it's combining a lot of singles and plurals and so forth, so they don't really know the exact volume of searches. And Answer to Public's a fun tool to really separate out the what, where, how, why, and questions that people ask around a given search term that you put in. So those are some of our favorite tools to come up with some of the upper funnel awareness level content. So let's review what we went through so far, and then we'll get into optimizing a single landing page. So as I mentioned, a taxonomy is really a way that you can organize all that great keyword-rich content in hopes of boosting your rankings. You can use analytics and Search Console to really find what's worked already for you. You can use tools that pull competitor insights and start to sort of aggregate all the different ways that people could find you. And then researching topics and then organizing by user intent. And I'll show you some examples and case studies here in a few minutes. Lastly is getting that IA together. If you do this, you've done more than 90% of any SEO company. Most SEO agencies, companies, freelancers don't put an IA plan together. They don't take all these keywords. In some cases, it could be hundreds of thousands of keywords, and create a plan. They create the blueprint. They don't create the elephant. They simply pull a couple keyword ideas, take a look at the content you already have, and then just start expanding on it over time. But they never really build that map. If you can do that, if you can invest the time, for us it takes up to 90 days to do this. But once you've done it, you've built the entire blueprint for what you could do to optimize your site to rank for every single way somebody would search for you. So if you're willing to make that commitment, to your SEO, you're going to beat all of the competitors, hands down. All right, so let's optimize our content. What do we do with all that data? Now we've got, all these search terms. How do we use them, and how do we group them, and how does this whole idea of content clustering work? So our goals here are going to be, looking at the buyer's journey and content types, looking at competitor landing pages themselves so that we're not just guessing and hoping our page is better. We're going to look and see what the competitors are doing and make our page better. We're going to identify and optimize the actual page level SEO focal points. And then of course, measuring, what's working and adjusting accordingly. So buyer's journey. I'm not going to talk too much about buyer's journey. You probably know this and you've been thrown in a million times. That the most important, of course, are awareness, consideration, and purchase. Those are the big ones. Those are the most important points during that shopping process. And where we like to start in many cases is really looking at that long tail. What are the easy wins that we could do as we start to put all these keywords into a list? What are some easy wins to start driving relevant traffic? These, as Google calls them, I want to know moments. And it really refers to mobile, so it's kind of silly that I have a desktop screenshot on here, but that micro moment when that user hasn't really decided if they need storage or not, and you've got a storage website and you can give them tips on how to move things. Or if you are an attorney and somebody's looking to understand what a bobtail tractor trailer is, because you're getting into the industry, and later on you might need an attorney or help, you'll remember the person hopefully that helped you, or the site will be able to use remarketing and pull you back in. So the win in doing this, and a lot of businesses won't invest in anything but bottom line content. Look, I only want purchase level buyer's journey content because I only want dollars and I want a site-wide 50% conversion rate. And that's a wrong attitude to have, and that's the wrong viewpoint, because your competitors are going to flank you, especially with voice queries and all the other ways that people are searching for helpful content. So if you can do this, it helps to build brand awareness. People will link and reference this content. They're going to hopefully curate it so that you do get that short answer, the position 0 in search that you want, and you do show up on voice queries. It's worth the time, to do those, really upper level or awareness level content. And the lower funnel result that happens when you do that, when you build links deeper down in that taxonomy toward that upper level page. And here's one example of it. Tractor trailer accident lawyer. Well, this page wouldn't have ranked had we had not created supportive content and definitions and things that were helpful that people would link to and reference and mention to help us build authority. This couldn't have happened without that, without taking that keyword cluster and organizing it into content and supportive content. So here's an example with a shoe manufacturer. We're just doing some brainstorming around ideas that could drive incremental traffic, attract links, and help us to rank for more of the shoes and shoe-related queries. So the challenge was, of course, coming up with ideas, and then challenge 2 was trying to get that voice search result for Google Assistant. And we used a keyword tool, and we came up with a lot of really interesting ideas. The one that we found was the easy one to win was how to clean white shoes. And I'll give you some attributes on what you can do here in a moment. But this is kind of how the magic comes together. And all of these are separate pages. Suede shoes would be a separate page. Parent page would be shoe maintenance. And the sub page would be suede shoes, stretch shoes, clean shoes. All of these are different sub pages under that main category for somebody who's looking for shoe maintenance tips. And then you put it into a calendar or use a platform like Content Tools to help organize and strategically plan out what content you want to put on your site. I like to do it by what's going to drive the most search volume, most searches. So once I've got my full list and I've computed all of the different search volume from my keyword clusters, I'll take those groups that have the most search volume and organize them based on what's going to get the most traffic quickest. I also have a little content marketing template that you could use. There's the bit.ly URL for it. This was something I created in 2010 and just refreshed it, I think about a month and a half ago. It's a great framework for understanding campaign ideas or theme ideas for your content, as well as some examples and some tracking. If you want to do it manually, if you want to use a Google Sheet, you could do it the long way. And here's a template for it. But obviously there's much more robust platforms that you could use to automate that process. So here's an example of us taking some of that how to, where to, why to awareness level content and building a page for it. In this case, public storage was challenged because they want to rank for more storage and self-storage and related queries. And they want to show up in voice search for a lot of these. So we work with them to create a section on their website. It's moved since the screenshot, but it's still on the website. It includes, the how to store a car, which was the second most searched term in the cluster. The first most searched was used in the title tag, which you can't see obviously on the page. And then we included a custom video. We marked it up with something called schema.org to give it a little bit more data for search engines to understand what this content is. We try to make it easy for users who found this content helpful to copy the steps so that we get that featured answer. And then we have some free thing that we can give them to put on their fridge or to have something in front of them so that there's a little bit more brand equity in that process. So again, going back into awareness, here's an example. I thought I had another screenshot on here. Yeah, I do. So the keyword was luxury gift ideas. That's an important keyword. It drives seasonal traffic and is something that this particular domain wants to start appearing for. What's the user intent? As well, they're looking for ideas. They're not yet buying. They don't know which watch they want, but they're looking for ideas, and watches might be a good way to go. The search volume is less than 200 searches a month, and the competition is relatively low, as you can see from the AdWords data here on the bottom left. The luxury gift ideas has about 140 monthly searches, and the competition's high. And then luxury gift ideas is very low overall search volume. So their plan was to create as much helpful content around gift ideas. So they have top holiday gift ideas for men, what men want for Christmas, the ultimate gift list, and then an ultimate holiday gift guide for her. So they're trying to keep their keywords separate, not cannibalize pages. They know which keywords, which pages should rank for which keywords, and have done a really good job with trying to build supportive content that attracts links that helps them to build brand awareness. So in this case, here's an example of what they did with one search term. Of course, the title and meta description, which you can't see. I just put a little red button up here to show that it's in the metadata. Title and meta is going to be where you use that most searched for phrase in the cluster. 2 is going to be your short answer for position 0. I haven't seen any websites doing this yet. So if you want to get ahead of the curve, get that summary paragraph right there in the start. And I don't know if you have this problem or not the way I do, but I get really frustrated when I get to a page and I have to scroll to the bottom to get the answer that I want. Give the answer first. And if the user wants more context, then they can read. And in doing that, in many cases, if they got the answer they needed and they wanted to share it, make it easy to share. So again, this gives you an opportunity to do something that a lot of websites aren't doing yet, to get that position 0 in organic and get that voice query. The idea of having expertise, authority, and trust, or if your site affects someone's money or their life, your money, your life objects, having something there so that the user feels like they can trust the page. It's not fake news. They're not going to try to make promises or steal from you, is really important. More important than ever, since a lot of these updates have happened. Last year there was an update that happened in August, I believe, called, they were calling it the medic update because it really affected a lot of healthcare related websites. And then here in March of this year, they keep tightening the grip on a lot of these expertise, authority, trust signals. So make sure the author name is there and that there's a bio that they can go to. When's the date? How many people are sharing it? Is there social proof that this page is legit? Copywriting. We want to avoid, on awareness content, doing any sort of selling. This is a helpful page. Nobody links to a page that tries to sell you something. So make sure on your awareness content, when you're looking at the keyword clusters that are the how, where, why, tips, ideas, strategies, etc., that we're not trying to sell. Sections and subheadings are ways that we can emphasize other search terms without being keyword explicit and looking like we're stuffing keywords. Bullets and numbered lists, for some reason, always help a page perform better. It breaks up the paragraph so it doesn't look like paragraph after paragraph. And then using larger fonts. That's where this page is a little bit challenged because the font's a little bit low. Continuing down, you can see that they've also used video in many cases. If you can, video is a great way to make your page more unique than other pages and to be more helpful. Illustrations and images. Stock images are already, and from our experience, the binary code of an image is already in Google's index. So it's not going to help you to use a stock image as much as it would to introduce a new image that you created yourself with a camera or with a graphic software or however you want to do it. If you're creating an image that's helpful and it's yours, you get credit for it. You'll show up in image search and your page will be more unique than those that use stock imagery. And then encouraging sharing, as you can see over on the right here, is making it easy for somebody to share that content. And social media, of course. Consideration phase, a little bit different. In this case, the user is searching for pre-owned Rolex, and they've addressed as many of the areas as they can. You can see them in paid search, both through regular text ads and through shopping ads. You can see them in local results if you're local to where they are, because they've worked on making sure their Google My Business listing squared away. And you can see them in organic they took the time to really test and understand which title and meta description are the most helpful. They've included some markup to make sure that the user knows that there's a certain number of products. It's funny, these numbers are really close to each other, but not the same. And then you can see the search volume data from the Google Keyword Tool. This case, their intent is kind of mid-funnel. They don't know which watch they want. There's a really high search volume, and the competition is super high, so forget about it. What do they do with that page? Title and meta description, again, as before. They still want to have their trust and expertise signals wherever they can. Some mild sales cues, not too salesy. Definitely making sure that we're including our keywords appropriately in subheadings. Video, again, in this case, maybe some comparison tables, some filters, some sorting. This makes this page more helpful than the competitors who don't have those features. Ratings and reviews, which are really helpful, especially in today's shopping ecosystem. And then the try before you buy. This one also has some guarantees and warranties, which also play into some of the trust signals at the top. And lastly, awards and news feature mentions. So lots of opportunity and where we would apply those search terms within context. So going through this page, you can see they've got the history of the product. They've got this craftsmanship. These pictures are all custom made by the business owner. I think most of them cost over $1,000 each from the little interview I did with this particular business. There's a drop down for each model. As you continue down the same page, you've got more trust reasons, you've got more HD images. It talks about how the watch is made, and then common questions at the end. Be careful not to mark this page up with schema.org FAQ page. If you do that, then the page now doesn't become a product or category page, it becomes an FAQ. So be really careful how you start marking things up as you go through that content creation process. Expert answers, where applicable. So again, a lot of really good examples of how you can take those search terms and what those attributes are to help a page rank well within the search results. And the buyer phase. So here you can see Rolex Blue Submariner 16613. This is a buyer. This person knows what they want. They're not browsing. They're not shopping. They're buying. So in this case, you can see they've got that organic listing right there at the top. They're missing out on video search because they haven't probably put as much time as they could have into their video for that particular product or model number. They've got several results in organic, but they're missing out on the knowledge panel over here on the right. So there's still an opportunity for them to get a little bit more visibility in the universal or blended search results. However, they are doing really well in organic. Their intents to buy a watch. There's not much search volume, but this is what drives the money. So what do? They put the topmost search term in the title. They summarize the page with a really descriptive description. They still have those expertise, authority, trust objects wherever they can, like 100% authentic, low price guarantee. They've got, again, using search terms within copy, using stronger sales cues, like the buy it now button. Video made specifically for the buyer, convincing them to purchase. Product detail tables, so there is still some sort of consideration level context there if they're still undecided if this is the right model for them. Ratings, reviews, guarantees and warranties, and then convincing images. All of these, custom taken at the location, and fast and easy purchase. So when you do check out, it's got lots of different payment options and allows you to get through that process seamlessly. And of course, optimized for mobile. Now that Google's a mobile first index, super important to make sure that this page looks fantastic to mobile users and is just as helpful as it is on desktop. Still on that same page, one of the images that we found was a picture of the actual box that it comes in. To me, this really helps to build authenticity and authority, and says, hey, this is a really important brand. So companies need to think about SEO as not just, I need to shove some keywords on a page and rank. It's I need to evolve my business to make sure that I'm truly providing the best service. My web page is now the counter at my office, and I want to make sure when somebody walks up to it that they're really impressed by us. So in this case, one of the messages that I got from the business owner was that he's always testing, always improving, always trying to keep an eye on what the competition's doing. So in this case, if you look at archive.org, you can see how that page has evolved over the years. It's pretty amazing to see some of the tests and some of the things that they've done to get the page where it is today. You can do that for competitors as well and watch what competitors have done. Lastly is measuring and improving. So by taking one specific query, and I was able to sneak into one very explicit model to see how much revenue can come from one single page, for example, it's pretty amazing. So if you take the time and you build these keyword clusters and you organize them and emphasize the ones that have the highest search volume in the title and the second most in the heading, as we talked about earlier, you can see that there's a lot of revenue potential that can come from organic search. I mentioned video. I really want to emphasize that more than some of the other attributes on the page. We are really evolving into a video world. VidCon is a big conference that happens every year. It sells out, and the tickets go up exponentially every year because everybody knows the power and the influence of what video is doing. Everybody's using YouTube more than ever. What else do you want to do to make your page better? Professionalism. Make sure your page is better. Look at the competition, see what they're doing, run some tests and see what users respond to more. Helpfulness, and of course, using those sales principles. One of my favorite things to do, and our favorite things to do here at Wiedemann Consulting, is using crowdsourcing. So we'll go to Mechanical Turk and we'll ask 1,000 users or maybe even 500 users for 5 cents each to look at a page and answer some simple questions like, how can I make this page better? Or what makes this page better than this page? You don't have to tell them which one's yours and which one's the competitors. You take all that data, you group them by common theme, you sort it by the ones that are mentioned the most by frequency, and then you start testing. In a lot of cases, you'll see this button needs to stand out more, or you'll see it seems too salesy or too keyword stuffed. You'll take all that feedback and start making adjustments based on hundreds, if not thousands of users' feedback, all for 5 cents or less per feedback. So here's some example content cluster ideas. The old method, of course, as we talked about earlier, even evolved, is flat, right? So here's a pool service company, site.com, services, pool cleaning, pool repair, pool maintenance. There's a tips page, catching leaves. It's not organized in any way. It's just a bunch of content, but at least it's search engine friendly. It might not be optimized for search, but it's search engine friendly. What do we do with that? The cluster method is, hey, let's take all those similar search terms that are part of that keyword group when we organize them, and let's start putting them into a taxonomy. So in this case, I'm going to create a services main page like we did before, but then I'm going to start putting all of the services underneath that services page, cleaning. And if there's tips, put that underneath pool cleaning. I'll show you why here in a second. So let's just keep going on the list. You can see how we've built this out into being a well-organized site with pool cleaning, repair, and maintenance, each with their own sub-pages that support getting these pages to rank for pool repair service. Who's going to win in a battle where the competitors have one page and you have a section of pages? Who's more authoritative? Who has more helpful content? Obviously the section. So the section is going to rank if a section exists and it's not just haphazardly thrown off the route. Let's keep going. So again, you can see how this builds out. So here's the old method. This one we'll look at antique chairs. Same exact method. Let's take antique chairs, make it the primary category, and put wooden, rocking, and maintenance underneath them. This flat taxonomy idea was something that SEO started doing 10 years ago, and they were doing it because of the way that Google crawled websites. Google crawls so much more efficiently now. It's okay to have a sub page. It's okay to have a category. It's not going to hurt your SEO. In fact, it'll actually benefit it. So again, reviewing what we went through, the buyer journey, looking at awareness content, looking at our consideration and our purchase phases of that buyer's journey, and making sure that that we're organizing them right. Don't use our awareness keywords on a sales page, because that's not it's not going to attract links. It's not going to solve the user's problem. You're selling to them when they were just looking for information. Analyzing competitor pages for inspiration. That's, by the way, one of our clients does that every month. They have a alert set up, I think through Visual Ping. It's called Visual Ping, and they get alerts anytime the competitors change anything on their version of a page that they're competing against. So they actually get alerted, and once a month they'll review all of the changes and say, hey, do we need to test some of the things that our competition's doing? It's a really great idea. Optimizing page level focus points based on what their phase is in that buyer journey. Measuring results and making adjustments is critical. There's so many set it and forget it agencies out there that will just put everything out there and say, I'm done. In 4 months, you'll get traffic. Keep paying us every month for doing nothing. And that's not right. You should be looking every month at what you could be improving. Every month, challenge your technology team to say, how can I get our bounce rate better? How can I get our page speed up? Hey, we're at 3 seconds. That's great. How do we get to 2? Hey, we're at 2 seconds. Great. How do we get to 1? Right? Keep challenging the technology teams to improve bounce rates, to improve load times, to improve user friendliness. Continue to run surveys and focus groups to get those pages to be as amazing as they possibly can be. And that crowdsourcing is just a fantastic tool for doing that. And that is my presentation on keywords and clusters and taxonomy. I guess now we could take some questions. And Amelia, what do you want to do?
That's right. Thank you so much, Steve. I took so many notes. Super interesting material here. And we do have a couple of questions. One of them is regarding the voice assistant search that you mentioned. So the topic cluster structure will also help me. It will also help my company be on the position 0, or this is just one way to do it, and there is so much more around actually being featured in voice searching.
Right. Yeah, voice search is it's getting big. Transactional search is still really low with voice. There aren't a lot of people buying yet, and those who are buying with Amazon and not with Google just yet. So from a buyer journey perspective, I'd be testing a lot of ways that we can address transactional search and be ready for it, but I wouldn't put it as priority number one. The awareness level content is really where most of the voice search can benefit you. The how to, where to, why to, general questions people have about the industry. The first part of addressing that, of course, is content, is making sure that you have a page that's well optimized and has that block of text at the beginning that summarizes everything that's generally under 375 characters or so. Or if it's a checklist, maybe a checklist of 10 or less items. Once that's on the page and is really easy to read and use for a mobile user, the next step is really getting that content shared. And you can start by syndicating to your social channels, your Facebook and your Twitter, and then you can take the media from that page, like the images and the videos, and in the description area within your Pinterest and within your YouTube and wherever else you're sharing that content, you can put your short answer or your list in the content. So when Google crawls those different social and media sources, that they find that short answer. One of the things that we like to do as well, once we do create an answer to a question, is we'll set up a Google alert so that every time somebody asks the question of what is and how does and how do you, that we can get a Google alert and immediately jump in and answer the question with our short answer or our checklist. And it might take a year, it might take 2 years, but if you do it and you're dropping these short answers as the questions come up, Google's going to recognize over time that you're the best answer to that problem. The content itself isn't going to help you as much as getting that content shared. It might have a year ago, but as soon as the really advanced SEO community caught on to voice search and featured answers, they started spamming the heck out of the internet with their short answer. And I don't think that's the right solution. I think the right way to do it is getting our answer on the right pages when people are asking the questions, making sure that we're there when those questions are asked in Reddit and in forums and in Quora and Yahoo Answers, getting those Google alerts set up, of course, sharing it ourselves. And if we have any partners or affiliates or friends who own websites and we can get them to mention our content, it's almost as helpful as getting a link in organic SEO. And it's much easier to convince somebody to share a list or a short answer than it is to get them to link to you. Everybody's paranoid about linking with all the Google penalties and Penguin penalties and so forth. So I think it's critical to really invest time into getting that short answer and that checklist shared as much as possible over time, so that you build a signal of authority that, hey, this is the best answer, where the spammers are doing this big spike in sharing their content on these really crazy hacked websites and private blog networks or whatever. And then over time, Google starts to recognize that was a forced attempt at manipulating the results, and eventually their short answer will go away while you just continue to grow slowly the way that organic works. Great question, though.
Yeah, thanks so much. And another one is around mobile. How does mobile play around topic clusters? Should I be aware of any other type of organization on my website, thinking on mobile first, or is all of these structures good for both desktop and mobile?
So the experience always has to be different. The desktop experience, you can do a lot more for desktop users, and mobile, you can do a lot more for mobile users. So I think in looking at the approach when you're doing your style sheet for both viewports, it's going to be a different user experience. I don't think the content should be different. I think how the content's organized, definitely. You can with mobile, you can put some of these supportive answers on, say, an FAQ section of a page if you don't want to build subpages, that can expand and collapse. And now, I think John Mueller confirmed it. Now Google will crawl, index, and still count content that requires a click to be able to see, because they know it's not a good user experience to have 8 miles of scrolling on a mobile device. In terms of the keyword usage and how you use those search terms, it shouldn't be any different. You should still use that most searched for keyword in the cluster of related keywords that you're you're using in that HTML title. You should still use the second most searched term somewhere within that meta description. The lawyer example, we use lawyer in the title and attorney in the within the H1 and law firm within an H2. And that seemed to work really well to make sure that we're maximizing our visibility for all three. But we didn't do it explicitly on either desktop or mobile. We did it where we included it within some context. So it was, why choose the best personal injury attorney, not just personal injury attorney, right? We tried to still make it a convincing, really well-written page that flows well. It's not just shoved with search terms. I don't know if that answers the question, but the experience from a keyword standpoint should be the same. The experience from a usability standpoint should be optimized, for the device.
Perfect. And we still have time for one last question. It's a twofold though. So the first part is how long should I expect to have results implementing topic clusters? And if brands out there have implemented top clusters a while ago, or if it's something that is still to be implemented for most part of the brands out there.
Well, if I understand the question right, this is something we've done for years. It's not something new. It's the time it takes for a page to rank for any of the search terms depends on a number of factors. It depends on how long the competing pages have been out there in the search results, getting clicked on and building a history with Google. It depends on how competitive the search term is. For one of our clients, we're going after kids' shoes. They had a section for boys' shoes and girls' shoes, but they didn't have a kids' shoes page. 135,000 searches a month. And we launched the page. We linked it from the global navigation so that Google would know that it was an important page. We linked it from the body section of the homepage so that Google definitely knew it was an important page, since that was the most important page on your website. And within about 2 weeks, we started to see some impressions in Search Console for the phrase kids shoes. They showed us when they did show us at position 8, but with 135,000 searches a month, why were we only seeing a few dozen impressions? It didn't make sense. And then I realized that it was the way that Google approaches introducing new content's very slow and passive, especially for competitive keywords. If there's a page that's been #1 for kids' shoes for 5 years because they've been the best page, Google's not suddenly just going to displace them. You've got to earn your way to that spot through building history and trust, based on user behavior signals like user searching, clicking on that first result, going back to Google, choosing another result, and staying on it. And if that's your result that they're staying on, and that pattern happens more frequently than not, then over time you're going to start seeing more and more and more impressions, and eventually you'll get to the point where you're sticky on the first page of Google for the search term that you want to rank for. So the way I look at search holistically is that your content will get you to page 3 of a search engine result page for a medium competitive search term. If they crawl the page, they see the keyword on the page. It's got all the attributes that we went through: the video, the custom image, the lists, all the attributes based on the buyer journey. It'll get you to page 3 within, we'll just say, 30 to 90 days. And then as you start to get links to that page, as other websites start referencing that page, that will move you up to, we'll just say, page 2 or maybe to position 10 on page 1. So now Google trusts you. They crawl to that page. They use those links as votes to say that your page is helpful and relevant enough to be on the first page of Google. So now you're sitting there at position 10. You've got great content. You've got better content than your competition. You've earned some links. How do I get to that position 1? Let's just say it's taken us 6 months to get just to page 1 of Google for that medium competitive search term. It's going to be the user behavior signals. It's going to be the search and click behavior, and then choosing your listing more so than other listings to move you up to the top position. This can be manipulated, but if Google detects that pattern of manipulation, like if you use crowdsourcing and say search for and click my listing, which we've done many tests on that in the past. It'll get you to the first position in a couple of days, and then your listing will be removed from the search results for manipulating search. So it has to be natural. How do you have the best search result? Well, you use some of this structured markup to provide rich results and picture thumbnails and star ratings below your listing. You really try to make your listing stand out in the search results to be clicked on. And then when they get to your page, for it not to be all eradicated by not having a good user experience and getting them to stay there, we have to make sure that we've addressed everything from ADA compliancy for those people who have accessibility issues to the device they happen to be on. What if they're on an older mobile device? What if they're on a BlackBerry? What if they're on a really slow internet connection? We have to make sure that we've addressed the needs of every possible user, so that our page, if it's 1 point off from our competition, that we've got one little thing that we can use to beat our competitor. And it might be something as simple as all attributes on images, or fonts that are expandable for people with visual impairments. Or it just might be something as simple as page speed, removing a carousel or functionality or JavaScript that you think's really neat, but doesn't really help the buyer. Removing things that are excessive bloat on your page to get that page to load faster. I think that's, at the end of the day, how you beat the competition and how long it takes, 6 months to a year, for a medium competitive search term to get to the top of search. We did that with truck accident lawyer and some of the derivatives. It took almost exactly 1 year to get that position. And we watched and we monitored and we got, beat up a little bit by the clients, who didn't have a lot of patience. And he's like, hey, I'm putting a lot of money into this. Why am I not number one? It's a process. It's slow and it's a marathon. And if you do it the right way, you'll see success over time. We've always believed that, you don't, like Jim Rohn said, you don't have to do extraordinary things to get what you want. You only have to do ordinary things extraordinarily well. And that holds true in search, in organic search. And as the competition spams and manipulates and does things to game rankings, just be patient. Eventually they're going to get penalized and they're going to go away and they're going to have to start all over, while you just continue to grow and grow slowly over time.
What a great quote to wrap up this webinar. Thank you so much, Steve. I love the mindset behind it. It's all about experimentation, all about continuous improvement. SEO brings free traffic. Yes, it does not come for free, right? You must invest and invest a lot over time. So thank you so much, Steve. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar, and we'll see each other next time again. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Bye.